But firstly, I think it should be really interesting to hear your story from because when you first told me, I couldn't believe what you'd achieved from how soon you'd actually started Hyrox.
So my Hyrox journey, it started with probably October 2021.
Yeah.
We had my daughter, and I've been a PT for like 10 years. I've always kind of been into this kind of training and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was very lost with like what I wanted to do in terms of training. I was almost to an extent past the point of where I was too bothered about what I looked like. So going in to train for aesthetics every single day didn't really fill me with the passion that I wanted to have for training. And a few people that I used to train, a few clients I used to train, they messaged me saying, "Oh, you should try this. It's your kind of thing. You would be really good at it. It's the kind of training we see you do, and you always excel in this kind of thing."
Yeah.
So I entered it. Long story short, I did what everyone did when they first trained for Hyrox and just did sims over and over again because I thought that was I thought that was kind of the best way to do it. There wasn't much even 3 years ago. There wasn't the information out there.
So what was the first thing that you found on Hyrox to kind of sort your training out? So what was out there?
So in terms of before that first race, there was nothing. So I only started training for it in January, and the race was at the end of January, and I just did the first half of Hyrox 1 day a week, the second half of Hyrox the other day of the week, and then I just increased it. So doing 4 stations, 4 runs, 5 stations, 5 runs. And I just went from there. So, and I think still to this day, that is what most people do when they start. Yeah, I think so. But there is too much information almost out there now. Whereas at that point there was nothing. There was no real coaches or anything like that because it was such a new sport. This was, I think the second event in England. I think there was only like 400 or 500 people at it, 600 people tops, I think, in comparison.
I remember when it first.
In comparison to now where they're getting like 12,000 people to the event. So after that period of like sort of 4 weeks of training, and I looked at the times of the last one that people had won, and I was like, I feel like maybe I could do that. And then I was telling people, and they were like, no, not a chance, blah, blah, blah.
What were the times?
They were like... It was probably like an hour and 4, an hour and 5, something like that. So again, like in comparison to what people are getting now, the sport and everything has progressed so much. So went to the event, and I remember the biggest thing I always remember about the event is walking in, and there was all these guys. Look, I'm not a big guy in any way. There's all these guys who are about like fridge freezers running around, like 6'4", 100 kilos. Like there's not an ounce of fat on any of them. Absolutely rock solid. And I was like, oh my God, I'm walking in with my like 3-month-old baby and my wife, and I'm like, oh my God, what have I entered here? And I remember for the first race, there was no, again, because there wasn't the information out there, there was none of this talk about, oh, these sleds are heavy or this bit's need worrying about. I didn't have any fear or anything like that for it. It was just like, I'm just going to turn up and whatever happens, happens.
Do you think that benefited you?
100%. And this is the main thing I say to every single person who starts Hyrox is get yourself off social media. I think it's great. It's great that you're going to find a coach, like hopefully like myself or something like that. But I think you can talk yourself out of it by looking at too much information on social media.
It's the same with nutrition, isn't it? Like people come to me and I'm like, there's so much out there, like don't take it in. If you put your trust in someone to help you, listen to their advice.
And this is that, I think that's such a valid point, because I think, and I have it with some of my clients who have hired me to do to be their coach and hopefully be the voice of reason and the voice of guidance for them. And then they'll be like, oh, but I did see someone else post on that, and it almost comes, well, that you've hired me for a reason, so you understand that probably what I'm saying is what you need to go with. There is, like you said, in nutrition, Hyrox, in training, there is going to be a million different opinions on and so many ways that you can skin a cat, right?
Absolutely,
So,
and it's personal to them. So when you've got a coach, everything's really personal.
Yeah.
So they might see something online that's worked for someone else, and you might give them something different because you know them and you know where they've come from and what the process is ahead as well.
And that's exactly it. I think finding that personalization for each individual is so important, like you said, when it comes to either of what we coach for. It is such an important thing. So we come back to that first day, and got to lap number 1 and realized the reason why none of these guys were particularly very good at it is because none of them could run, which is something that I was good at and excelled in. So we did the whole race, and I actually remember me, Becca, my wife, and Monroe, as I said, little baby. Becca was like, I need to go and feed her now. So there wasn't this like everyone coming up and patting you on the back. We had to go to the back of, it was in Manchester, the first one, while my wife breastfed my daughter.
What was your time and your position on your first one?
So it was 1 hour and 3.
Wow.
And I remember kind of refreshing because you get it all online and stuff like that. And we were just sat there, obviously my wife breastfeeding my daughter. And I'm going, I think I might have won. And she's like, no, you haven't. I was like, no, I think I have.
No way.
So we had to like hang around. And that annoyed her because it meant we had to hang around for another 3 hours to get my podium there.
It annoyed her that you won.
But again, I knew so little about this as a sport. It was, I think it was Faisal that was there, the guy who does the MCing and stuff like that. And it was like, I'm qualifying for the World Championships in Las Vegas. And I'm like, what?
And that was you.
And that was it. So that was how I got into the sport. I was very lucky that season that I managed to find someone to sponsor me to be able to go out to Las Vegas. The less said about what happened in Las Vegas, the better, but in terms of how I did. But that's kind of how I got into Hyrox and went from there. Yeah.
So it must have been just the fact that you just went in and you done your best. You weren't comparing. And I find once obviously now you're probably comparing all the time and thinking about where other people are.
And look, I as a coach for this can be probably very similar to some of my clients in a certain way. I still look at the people that I'm competing against on social media and I'm like, oh, they're training a lot more than me at the moment. Should I be doing that? But the circumstances of each individual are very different, right? They probably don't have a 2-year-old. They don't have another one on the way. They don't have all these different variables that a lot of people have. And this is what I try and get across to my clients quite a lot is when you're looking at social media and you're comparing yourself to others, you need to probably take a step back and understand, like I've got clients who have got 3 kids. The ones that I find incredible are the mums that I train.
Yeah.
I've got a lady called Lindsay. She's just had twins.
Wow. How long ago?
I think they're 9 months old, maybe 10 months old. And she qualified for the World Championships.
No way. So that's incredible.
Yeah,
has she done one before the twins? Or
she had done one. This was a second one. And then London next week's going to be her third. And then she's doing the World Championship, which I think stuff like that, because I know how hard my wife works with our little girl. And I know it, regardless, it is tougher for mums to be able to have access to training and the availability to go and train, because they're always normally the provider, the sole carer or the carer of children. So I think that's incredible.
It really, is really incredible. It is, and to find the time to do it and have the mindset to do it, because so much time is dedicated to even one child, but twins is extra hard. So
and time's really good. Time's a really good one. I think Hyrox is one of those things that there's so many different things and elements that you want to train that sometimes you can get lost a little bit. And this is why getting a coach is such a good thing, because they can direct you down the right path rather than being like, okay, there's 8 different elements that I need to get better at, plus the running, plus everything else. Yeah. And you can go down a whole pigeonhole and end up you can end up training sort of 20, 30 hours a week and still not be in the right position because you've almost done too much.
Absolutely. So it goes with anything, doesn't it? It's like just you don't know where to go, so you throw yourself into what you think is right. There's no structure behind it. Yeah. And also what you were saying earlier, just going back to that with people online that you see, and it might not, you'll be like, well, I might be doing a little bit less than them, or they seem to be training a lot more than me. You don't actually see behind the scenes. You only see part of it online. You don't know what recovery they're going through, how much like they might be struggling with other aspects of their life. You just don't know. You don't know everyone's backstory.
I did a post about this the other day, and it's the saying, comparison is the thief of joy, is it? Yeah. I think it's the saying. And I think social media in this day and age gives so much to so many people, but also what people post on social media is the highlight reel of their life, basically, isn't it? And I think what there needs to be a lot more is actual realness and rawness from people of what actually is going on, because it's so easy. And I've done it before where I've put a session up that I've done. Yeah. And if you were to look at that, you'd be like, oh, he's grafting, he's working hard. And I'm almost doing it more for myself mentally, so I can look back and be like, yeah, I grafted, and I can have people almost that gratification where they're like, good job. But I know in my heart of hearts it was an absolute crap session.
Yeah, you pick out the best parts 100%, and you post the best 100%.
And everyone who's putting these workouts up and stuff like that. They're filming it at the end of a session. You'll see, I watched it the other day and it was a guy doing like burpees or something. And I was like, there is absolutely no way that if he did that in the middle of that block, that he was doing them at that pace. He either did it before or he did them after he'd finished the session. There's no way he's moving through it that quickly.
And but you'll know that because you do it. So but other people will look at it and just compare themselves. And it is something that just happens on social media. A transformation. People message me, they'll see a transformation online. And that's all they see. They see a photo from one point to the next point. But the journey in between, there's so many ups and downs. Like any journey, the journey here, there's twists and turns and ups and downs. And it's the same with a transformation. It's the same with your clients getting from the start of Hyrox to getting maybe a personal best. Like we both know it. Even on our own personal journeys, there's going to be points where we struggle. We're humans as well. We have ups and downs. And we probably feel as coaches that we can't be real in that way because people kind of look up to. Do you find that? I think that is such a, everyone thinks a coach or someone who's successful in what they do. Exactly. How many times have you been to like social situations? Because I get it as a PT. And they're like, oh, should you be eating that? I didn't think you'd eat that. They do.
Like a barbecue or something. Like I get it all the time. If you go, it's like, and then, or someone for me, like will be like asking me about their training or something like that. And what I did that morning, but I didn't train. And you'd be like, what? And I'd be like, no, I can have days off. I can have days off. But I bet in nutrition in particular, you must get it all the time. If you're eating a packet of crisps or something like that, they're like, should you be eating that? People
are like, well, you just live in the gym or you live on like chicken and rice. And I'm like, no, I'm a human.
Still have the same desires when it comes to food and stuff like that. Everyone else has.
And my clients motivate me to like be the best that I can be. And I'm sure you get the same. But I think social media does really... It takes away from coaching a lot because someone's on a personal journey. As a coach of dealing with so many people, you can probably know what's best for them. Where you are now, you're already thinking weeks down the line of where you want them to be and where you're pushing them to be. And where they're constantly comparing themselves to people online, it can really take away.
Everyone wants success like that, don't they? Everyone wants to be that overnight success. Everyone wants to probably have a similar story to like we discussed at the beginning where it's like, okay, I'm going to train for 4 weeks kind of half-assed and still end up getting an incredible result. But a lot of that's going to come from natural ability and to get from the stage that I was at then to now has taken an incredible amount of hard work, and the actual amount of time that I've knocked off isn't a huge amount, but but that's 2-3 years of 2 sessions a day, like all that kind of stuff. Structured training and done in a progressive manner rather than random shit pulled off Instagram.
What's your personal best at the moment?
So at that time when I did that first one, I did it in 1 hour and 3. So there's a lot of different divisions in Hyrox. So that's something worth noting. So that was in the open. So I did 1 hour and 3, and now I've done 56. So knocked sort of 7 or 8 minutes off that. In the pro, I've still got this burning desire. There's the big number in the pro division in Hyrox is to do like a sub 60. I'm at 61 at the moment. So that'll come. That was my goal for the start of the year, was to get that time down under 60. But things have just gone in a bit of a different direction. I've done a lot more doubles events this year, which I've really enjoyed. It's kind of given me the passion for it again, and it takes a little bit of a different type of training. And I'm a very social person, so like I really enjoy training with others, and that gives me that ability to do that a lot more. There's a couple of guys that I do the men's division with, and it just I come from a background of playing football. That lad banter, I enjoy that. I thrive on that, and that's what makes me like that. The excitement to do those sessions is so much more than going and slogging away for 1.5 hours by yourself.
Of course. But how does it go from single, the only time that matters is yours, all you can do is go in and put your best into it, to then having someone else who then needs to perform at their best? How does it feel mentally having to have the reliability of your time on someone else as well? I
think it obviously depends who you pick to do it with. The 2 guys in particular I do men's doubles with, they're both great. They're both really strong runners. They're both really good at all the elements, very similar to myself. For me, I think it's good mentally though as well. Look, again, like everybody else, I have those wobbles on the morning of races. I sit there in the start pen like going a bit nervous for this one, like everybody else who does this stuff, and having someone there who's pumped, and sometimes you don't even need to say anything. You can just look at the person you're doing it with and you can be like, they're up for this. So there's an element of, yes, I get it. And this is probably a good bit of advice for people who do doubles. Obviously, yes, you don't want to let that person down, and I totally get that, but also use them to build you up. So like if you've got worries, if you've got fears, if you've got nerves, talk to your partner about it, and they're going to be like, no, what have you got? Look what you've achieved. Look what you can achieve. And if they're a good doubles partner, they'll do that rather than be like, actually, no, I'm not up for it either. But it's probably likely they're having a similar feeling. So I think it totally depends on who you're doing it with. But that's sort of the kind of the systems I've gone through.
You got to bounce off each other, haven't you? It's like, I imagine that some people go to do a doubles with someone, they get booked in, and then maybe one is training harder than the other, and they're watching the other person that's not giving as much, and that must be
that's one of the, I would say that people come to me as a coach like for that exact reason.
Oh, really?
I think a lot of the time they'll be like, okay, I've got X event booked with my partner. They are such a better runner than me. Help me get my running to the same ability. Because that's the biggest thing in Hyrox is obviously the running element. It's over 50% of the race. So if you can't keep up with your partner when it comes to the runs, it doesn't matter what you do really in the stations, unless you're going to let them do all of it, you're going to struggle. That, I think when it comes to finding someone who is a good doubles partner within it, then someone that you can do a similar ability running wise definitely helps.
With doubles as well, is it better to kind of know where you're better off at state? I've never done one, so better off at stations. How does that work usually?
As in, sorry, say that again.
So if someone's like, you've got doubles, you might be stronger on one area than your teammate. How do you usually figure that out as team? So I'll normally, like anyone who trains with me in a doubles, I'll normally like have like a strategy call with them the week of the race, and we'll work out the best plan of action for them. And it will be a case of normally whoever is the stronger runner, if there's a clear difference between who the stronger and the weaker runner is. And you have to be honest about it. There's no point of, you can't beat around the bush with this kind of stuff. Normally the stronger runner will start and finish on the stations. Doesn't matter what ones they are. So that when they go back out onto the runs, it kind of levels the playing field a little bit, because if you've just come off doing 250 meters as quick as you can on a skier or a row or whatever it may be, your running pace is naturally going to slow down. It doesn't matter how fit you are. Whereas if the person you're doing it with has just had some recovery, hopefully they should be able to push it a little bit. But you kind of you find yourself in the middle of a race, whether you're doing a doubles or a singles, it's a mental thing so much. Really?
Knowing who you are as an athlete, who you are as a person, I think really comes out in those stages, because there's times, and I've done it, so I've never not finished a race, but I've had times where I've got halfway around, I'm like, oh, this isn't for me today. but everyone goes for it. Everyone goes for it.
I think the one that I saw you at, you weren't happy that I think you injured yourself, didn't you, during the race? Or?
Was that the Manchester one? No, I'd done one in the morning, if you remember, hadn't I?
Oh, that's right.
So I wasn't in peak physical condition. I decided to do two in one day, and the second one of the day was the main race, and we were competing against the best person in the world at the sport. So probably wasn't my smartest decision on the planet, and we still came fourth. So
you've done amazing. I suppose it's that level of like you see yourself and you want yourself to be at the best, and I suppose we all go through it. We have personal time that we want to achieve, and if we don't, it's about not being hard on ourselves.
I think again, it comes back to the social media side of things. A lot of the pressure that I think sometimes that I personally feel before the race is because everyone's expecting me to win now. I'm at that point where everyone is now, okay, well, he should win. Like if there was bookies, it would be like he's the favourite. So if you don't perform because of, again, all the reasons we discussed, my daughter hasn't slept the night before, or I've been busy at work, or whatever it may be, people don't see that. They just think, oh, maybe he's not as good as we thought he was. And that again can play in your head. You can either use that to build you up. You can either go, do you know what? Fuck these people, I'm going to prove them wrong. Or you can be like, oh, maybe they're right.
Yeah, it can tear you down.
Yeah, 100%.
It can really tear you down.
And again, every aspect of life, stuff like that. If you're trying to be successful in something, there will be people that don't want you to succeed, and there'll be people that do want you to succeed. And you've got to just make sure that the people that you're hanging around with are the latter of those two, right?
Absolutely. And the understanding of you will you are a human being.
And
I think you said to me, even when we first started working together, like, you're like, the week of my race, my daughter just picks up a bug all the time, and I get it.
Every single time she gets some kind of sickness bug or vomiting bug, and just I'm like, right, I'm going to have to section myself off to a different part of the house now. But again, it's not really, as a dad, as a parent, those aren't really the sort of things you can do, unfortunately.
It's really interesting working with you, because I see the other side of stuff. Like, I see, like, you do race back to back, you travel, you've got your family life going on, you've got your clients, you've got all this going on, but people just see you at a race and see what your time is. They just see the end result of it all. Whereas, like, there's so much more to everything, and you literally give so much, but you've also got a life outside of it.
I think it's one of those things, isn't it? Like we said, like, it's about being a human, and and this is, I very much want all my stuff that comes through on social media to be, I think the posts that always get the most like engagement and likes are always the ones that are around, like, being a dad, being a normal person, enjoying going out and having a few beers with my friends from time to time. Like, I'm not a professional athlete getting paid £200,000 a year, unfortunately. I'm just a guy who enjoys a sport, is pretty good at it, and likes coaching people to do the same thing. And something that I feel like I resonate with my clients about is, I'm not going to start bollocking people when they don't do workouts or if something's come up, because
doesn't help them.
Not at all. It's just going to be like, oh, do you know what? I don't need this. And everyone likes to be coached in a different way. And I'm sure you've seen that as well. But what you need to do is have empathy, I think, to be a good coach.
A complete understanding that people have a life that is just not Hyrox or nutrition. There's so much more to life than that. However, if someone's got a goal, it's about reining them in and setting them straight, keeping them motivated, keeping them focused, but at the same time.
But this is where a good coach comes in. It's understanding where, if what they're saying to you is something that you could probably be like, okay, I probably could get on top of them here and be like, no, come on, let's stop it. Or it's, no, go, actually, sounds like you probably need this at the moment.
Exactly.
Whether it be a meal or whether it be to skip a training. That's a big one for me. Like, I get guys message me going, oh, can I just do half the session tonight? I'm feeling exhausted, I'm knackered. And my response would be, take the rest. If that's your body, your body saying, you're not going to, if this person's doing it 3 times a week, we might need to have a talk about what their training plan looks like and what they're doing outside of that. But everything I'll ever plan for someone when it comes to a training plan or a coaching plan will be based on who they are as a person and everything else they've got going on in life, right? The biggest thing that can be a struggle when you're a coach is when people aren't communicating with you, and you probably get it a lot, right? When they're not, you'll be sending messages, you're not getting responses, and then you'll see they're not doing workouts, stuff like that. So communication key is a massive, massive thing.
It is, and it's honesty, isn't it? And I think we all do it as humans. Like, we might disappear because we know, actually, I'm not doing it, but your coach is there to rein you in, to help you, to keep you motivated, to keep your focus, to understand. Sometimes just one conversation, I'll say to my clients, they message me at the end of the week and tell me they had a bad week. I'm like, if you just messaged me on the day, one conversation could have got you through. And we could have, and I think also they start punishing themselves mentally over it, and then it makes it worse, and then they spiral.
That's the word, isn't it? People spiral, like you said, they let one missed, and exactly what you've said, I get that all the time, where when I'm checking in with the clients, I'll check in with a certain amount each point of the week. So like the people in it, I go in alphabetical order. So the people at the end of it get checked in towards the end of the week. And one of them will, like, there'll be someone who might reply and he'll be like, oh no, I missed Monday, so I just haven't done anything. You're like, why didn't you just message me?
Just message. And I think people don't get, as a coach as well, to have a coach that's accessible and approachable is actually quite rare.
Definitely. There's a lot of, certainly in my industry as well, and I know for a fact there is in yours as well, there's a lot of shit coaches out there. And like you said, I think something I pride myself on is the level of communication I have with my guys. And I'm not always going to, there has to be an element of what that can be. I can't call someone every single day or something like that. But for me, every single workout you do deserves feedback, whether that even is a good job or a fire emoji, just to know that someone has looked through it. Because if you've taken the time to do a session to work out, then at least I can do is have a look through it. Okay. checking in with them weekly. And that's not just how's your week? It's like, okay, you mentioned last week that your knee was hurting. How's that feeling? Like actual, like active listening, right?
Yeah. Knowing your client as an individual.
Yeah. And then if it needs to go that step further. So for me, if I don't hear from someone for a week, I take it from my online system to I'll personally message them off my phone.
Yeah.
And then if that doesn't work, I'll then give them a call. Do you know
really
what I mean?
Do you?
Yeah, definitely. Because sometimes people need that. Sometimes people don't, but sometimes people do really need that. And it's like, yeah, okay, actually, no, this is I need you to just call me here because.
And sometimes people aren't ready. I know when I message certain people, they'll probably ignore me sometimes, but they've seen my name come up. They've seen that I care, and it triggers something in them to be like, okay, I need to get focused. Like I need to bring this back.
Yeah, and sometimes if they don't reply, that might be like you said. It might just been, okay, actually, no, I'm going to get on this now.
Yeah.
So that when she does message me, I do want to reply because I've actually been doing what she's telling me to do.
Yeah. Or later down the line, you'll get a message saying, sorry, I didn't reply for this. But it allows them to also remember, actually, you can talk to me. I'm here or whatever. So yeah, I think it is so important. I always say to my clients, like, remember, like, we're walking together on this journey. You're not by yourself. And that's the whole point in having a coach or having someone that you can be accountable to, because we both got the same end goal in mind. You want your clients to do their absolute best. I want my clients to do their absolute best, you know, the same way they do. So we've got the same goal. We want the same results. And so it's just important that we communicate. And in that communication, you can be human.
Yeah.
You absolutely can.
I think sometimes maybe people think, like we said, like that we're not with you because we're the coaches and they're going to bollock me because I've not done it right. Do you know what I mean? I
just laugh about it sometimes. I'm like, yeah, me too. And it's fine.
So let's go into nutrition a little bit then. So when it comes, obviously for me as an athlete, obviously we started working together maybe like 6 months ago, something like that.
Has it been that long?
It's about Christmas time, wasn't it? Something around that. And I guess like any coach, I have a good understanding of nutrition, but probably when it comes to specific events and everything like that, this is why I seeked out your advice, is because I was looking at it. So for something like a sport that we do, like Hyrox as an endurance sport, what would you say like the main things that we need to focus on?
Okay, so everyone is different. Like, you know, with your clients, every person is different. So if we take like yourself and then we take other Hyrox clients that I work with, everyone's just so unique. So their goals are going to be unique. So if we start with like your journey, you already smashing personal best, like you're at the top of your game, but it's about reaching that next level. And that's next level to you could be 30 seconds. Do you know what I mean? But that means everything. And then from a physique aspect as well, if you've got a physique goal, if you want to put on some strength and some muscle size, we've got to take it into account. But you also have so many events along the way. So it's a matter of planning over the next 6 months, taking into account all the events you've got, the holidays you've got as well, and also getting a physique goal. So it's there's so much to take into account. But as a Hyrox athlete, as somebody just training on performance, again, it's very unique. I mean, one of my guys is type 1 diabetic. I've got another girl, she performed recently. She's a client of both of ours. She got personal best of like 2.5 above her personal best. She smashed it. But she, at that journey, her losing weight in the process, losing some body fat, helped her journey. Yeah, definitely. You know,
I think that's quite a good. It was kind of one of my like questions that I was going to run with you, and I think it's because I get a lot of clients come to me and tends to be females, if I'm honest, and it's like, okay, I want to smash Hyrox.
Yeah.
But I also really want to lose 15 kilos of body weight. And like for me, obviously, naturally when you do this type of training, you're probably going to lose some weight. Yeah. Realistically, unless you're eating a hell of a lot of food.
Unless you're conscious. About how much,
how do you think those two goals go hand in hand?
It depends on time frame. So if you've got someone in 6 weeks, they got a Hyrox, just by performance alone and nutrition alone, they'll probably drop back some. Yeah. But then they also need to fuel their bodies right for their training. So yes, it absolutely can be done, but you've got to be very realistic about the time frame. And it does obviously massively help you, because if you're lower in body fat, you're training well, your lean muscle tissue's improving, your overall health and performance improving, just eating right in general, you're going to get better results. But you need to be realistic about the time frame that you do it in and eat enough. I think what a lot of people do is like, well, I want to lose weight and I want to train. And to get the absolute most out of that training, you've got to fuel for it.
Yeah.
And then they're worried about eating because I also want to lose weight. And you can you can do the two together.
And then you end up getting like locked in that catch-22 situation where you're like, okay, I'm gonna train in the morning fasted because then it won't matter, or like it doesn't. My body has, I don't know, like, do you know what I mean?
You'll come up, find a reason. Yeah,
there's always one of those things, and I find the first thing I'll always ask is to a client who, if they're having a bit, they're like, I'm really struggling with training, and that'd be my what's nutrition like at the moment?
Really? Do you ask them that
normally, yeah, because it's either nutrition for me, nutrition, sleep, hydration. Those are the kind of three. If they can't pinpoint why the training's and just suddenly it's gone crap, what's it been like? And those are the kind of questions you need to ask, because then 80% of the time someone comes back, actually,
it's not been great.
I haven't been eating great, or I haven't been sleeping. Okay, well, that's probably why.
Absolutely. But also I think as well, people go, well, I eat a clean diet, so, but it's, my performance might be not optimal. Or they might think their performance is optimal. And then they get on a nutrition plan and they're like, oh, I'm reaching like whole new levels. I'm really feeling good. And that's because they've covered everything. They're fueling their body. I do believe that you do really need a structured nutrition plan, especially with something like Hyrox, and especially leading up to the actual Hyrox race itself. You kind of need to know.
I think what something like that can do for someone is so much more than the result in the race, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And the reason they got the result is because of everything building up to it. But their training will be better, their sleep will be better. And I've noticed this when I've been bang on this properly and doing it right. Trainings, how many times I message you like, my training's going shit at the moment. I've got more energy. Yeah. Like, I'm sleeping better. I'm a better dad. Like, even little things like that, I've got more energy to be around my child.
That's amazing.
And it's those are the yes, knocking a minute off my time is fantastic. That's only going to last for a day. Yeah. Everything else lasts for forever. Hopefully. Hopefully, if you stick to it. So it's it's something I think that is massively, massively undervalued. And everyone talks about the 1%, because everyone thinks training is 99% and sleep, hydration, nutrition, all those things are 1%, but it's not the case really at all. Yeah. And I even had this the other day where I was like, I really want to train in the morning, but this is coming to sleep. But actually, probably more important to me and what I need right now is actually an extra 2 hours in bed. So getting that to me is the difference between getting up at 5 a.m. and getting up at 7 a.m. But that to me that day, actually, when I looked at it, was probably what I actually needed over another grueling workout in the gym. And I guarantee probably the knock-on effect that had for the rest of the week was so improved.
It's massive, isn't it? It's like it literally is. Recovery is just as important as your training, and recovery comes from, like you said, your sleep, your nutrition, even your supplementation. Like, people think, they look for the perfect supplement to take all the time, but they don't realize that all that does is it just gives you maybe a better performance because you're feeling better when you're training, and also recovery. So, but they're just so they're not spoken about enough. I've actually looked quite in depth online about like the Hyrox nutrition precisely. There's so little out there that I would agree with.
I think everyone's looking for the quick and easy fix.
Like so everything, isn't it?
A lot of it is meal prep companies and stuff like that. And don't get me wrong, these are a lot better than they used to be. Even when I first got into training and stuff 10 years ago, I think the only ones that were really out there were like, not My Protein, Muscle Food. Yeah. But again, nutrition is so individual to each person, isn't it? So for me, getting a 350 calorie pot with 20 grams of protein isn't really going to touch the sides, but for someone who's a 50 kilo girl, it probably is going to be suitable. So it's finding, and this is why working with someone like yourself is so beneficial, because it's finding the right path for you as a person and an individual, rather than a one size fits all approach.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the guys that works with both of us, he's type 1 diabetic, but he's got a high profile job. And so he does have meals from a company at lunch, and we just work with that. So his meals around it fit. So you can't just go, okay, I'll eat this meal and this meal, because it's got a certain amount of macros in it and calories, but usually they're not catered for that individual. Yeah. Some, like when I'm in Dubai, like you can literally get precise macros. Oh yeah,
they're mad, some of these ones now, aren't they?
Yeah, it's just not here in the UK as much, but everything's based around that. And then it's changing it. Like, how often do we change the macros, the calories, depending on the goal? Like, so it is like monitoring a person, and you can't really do that with just meal prep companies.
See, I'm different. So I think I always describe myself as being I'd be a good dog. Because I could eat the same thing every single day. I'm one of those people that really looks forward to like their breakfast or their snack or something like that. And you know, like a dog, when you're like, and I say it to our little dog, we got a beagle. Yeah. He's the naughtiest little bugger on the planet. But it's like, how can you look? You've eaten the same thing for 5 years. How can you look forward to it? I mean, I'm like, so would I. Like I could quite comfortably have the same thing for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Yeah. Every single day. I think it's human beings. We always think we need such a magnitude of variety and everything like that, and it's boring, like eating the same thing twice for dinner in a row. Yeah, but probably if you want to not see success, but probably if you're trying to just make life simple for yourself, that's probably the best way forward when it comes to nutrition, right?
It is, yeah. And there's actually research that actually shows the more you try to make your food tastier, the harder it is to stick to a diet. Yeah. Like, you're better off just looking at food as fuel for a goal. And it obviously with Hyrox athletes and with just physique athletes, people, it's very different. They look at world differently. My athletes usually come to me, they've got a goal in mind, tell me what to eat, I'll eat it, it's fine. They just want to fuel for their performance. Whereas a lifestyle, like, well, I've got my family, I want to eat a meal with my family in the evening, you know, I want to cook recipes, and it's a completely different mindset. But if you've got a physique goal, you've got any goal, you kind of need to be prepared to walk that road as smoothly as possible. And you just end up making it more complicated if you're looking for all these different recipes to have every single day. You don't need to.
I think people have that mentality when it comes to nutrition, don't they? If you've got, and that always seems to be the case with nutrition, if you've got something like a stumbling, or what could be seen as a stumbling block, like a meal with your family or a dinner out, people either go like one way or the other with it, don't they? They either go, right, I'm doing a meal out, I'm not going to eat, and I'm going to take Tupperware. Or they do the opposite, where they're like, well, I've got a meal out on Sunday, so we had ended up actually having a takeaway on Saturday as well, and then Friday went out for a few bits, and it's like, and then a week later, they're like, I haven't actually seen any improvement. And you probably as a coach are like, well, if we'd just done the meal out, there wouldn't have been an issue at all. But it's because you kind of just threw in the towel for the week. Yeah. Because you were having that meal out. And I see it all from before I did Hyrox coaching. I was an in-person PT whose main goal, most people's main goal, was fat loss. And we saw it all the time where just people would just go off, like the weekend warrior mentality would just go off the rails as soon as Friday afternoon hit, and then didn't realize that actually that's 3/7 of their week that they basically didn't do right.
It's so true. And I think along the way of any like nutrition, even like a performance goal, but if you look at it from a nutrition point of view, when you go out to eat and you go off plan, or you go on holiday, or you have a meal out, it's part of the journey. Like, you've got to learn.
It's being a human being.
It's being a human being, right? It's going to be part of your life, and you should go out when you're on a nutrition plan. You should go on holiday when you're on a nutrition plan. You should do all these things because it's part of your life. But it's really important to also then have a good relationship with yourself and food. And when you go out, it doesn't mean you've got to eat everything on the menu as quickly as possible, so then you can starve yourself the next day.
And there's got to be, there's different levels to this, right? There's like what I'm doing as an endurance athlete, to even what that client we discussed who's not doing this as seriously, but also wants to lose some weight, to someone who wants to go on stage and needs to have about 3% body fat. Like, that what I can probably get away with is going to be a little bit different to what that person needs to step on stage with, because every single calorie probably does need to be accounted for them to look their best in what they're doing, right?
Absolutely. It is completely different. I really love training with performance athletes. They want to fuel their body for a goal. We're looking to bring their training back up, improve their trainers. Their performance isn't just on their physique. I also do love bodybuilding athletes. I love it. Like, it's amazing to be able to transform the physique how you want it to, and put the work and effort to get there. But it comes with after show. That's where I'm like, I really need my clients to have a good relationship with themselves, good relationship with food, and an understanding what happens to your body. Because if you've been restricted for so long, I don't know if you've ever felt this at any point, because the way you've eaten, you've got a really good, healthy relationship with food.
I eat like a pig,
You're really good. But like because they've been restricted for so long, after a show, they can't even though they might be full up in their stomach, their brain is not giving them signals that they're full up. And then their body's more inclined to put on weight because it's been restricted, and in a starvation mode, our body recognizes it as a starvation, that you're more inclined to put on body fat as well.
Do a lot of people who do that competing online, do they end up having quite a bad relationship with food? Or you probably must have seen that in prior times, yeah?
Yeah, it's something that I really try to talk with my clients constantly throughout. I'm constantly post-show, because it's so important. But females tend to, definitely over the males.
They've got this physique that they wanted, and now it's like, and probably to get to that point, certainly I assume the build up to the event was like, what I would include peasant calories almost, because of that's what they wanted to do, right? So probably having to do that refeed and that build back up can be quite difficult.
Absolutely. But I think it's understanding what happens to your body and your mind after the event. I mean, people just assume that it's just about getting off that stage and being able to eat normally again. It does not work like that. Your body and your mind is going to actually be fighting against you. Yeah. Your body is going to want to restore all the body fat that it's lost. So it's going to want to hold on to that. Your mind is going to be tricking you to tell you you're hungry all the time because it's been in a starvation mode for so long. It's going to be saying, I need more food. And you have to be very strict post-show with what you do. Doesn't mean you can't enjoy a few meals. That you absolutely can. But you've got to have a cut-off point. And you've got to until your body kind of starts working with you again.
Cool. So when it comes to Hyrox then, let's talk through maybe, because I know a few people have sent some questions and stuff like that. So morning, if I'm racing at lunchtime, talk me through maybe what I should be doing. Let's go night before and morning of a race. So let's say, because obviously the Hyrox races can go from 7 in the morning till 9 o'clock at night. So we could be here all day talking about different things. But let's go someone who's competing in the middle of the day. What should the evening before and what should the morning look like in terms of food and stuff?
Okay. Everyone is individual. Firstly, you need to know what you're doing on the morning. It shouldn't be something you've never done before. You should kind of know what your morning is like because you've done it before, you've practiced it before within your training. You shouldn't just suddenly do something different. You need to know. So if you're training at lunchtime, get used to eating around a certain time and then training at that time to know how your body responds to it. Because not only do you have to take a performance into account, you need to take your digestion into account as well. So you need time for that. The night before the race, again, individual, everyone's different, but you do want to be getting a good amount of carbs and protein in and prioritizing your carb intake the day before.
What are your thoughts on carb loading? Because obviously Hyrox isn't a marathon. We're not running from 3 to 5 hours, depending on obviously what level you're doing at. Most people are probably sitting between an hour and 2 hours. One of the things that I say is increase carbs definitely, but don't go absolutely ballistic. People tend to, they feel that they need to increase so much from what they're used to doing. You don't need to do that at all, but you do need to get in adequate food. Some people actually prefer to train with less carbohydrates. And then it will take about 6 or 7 days to start easing the carbohydrates back into the diet for them on race day. So it is extremely individual. And I think people watch so much stuff online and they're like, well, I need to do exactly what they're doing because that's the only thing that works. But it's not. It's knowing you and knowing your body. I think, like you said at the beginning of this, one thing I always say to people when I'm giving advice around nutrition in terms of around a race is stay away from, like you said, stuff that you've never eaten before. For some reason, people seem to think the training that I'm giving people should be almost as tough as some of these races sometimes. And for some reason, people need to start trying different foods the week of a race, which is definitely not the case. Or they'll be we discussed it about myself personally, some intra-fueling. And they've never done it before, but then they think, oh, I might try it on race day. So I think the biggest thing for me, I would tell my clients is just don't do anything that you haven't done before. Or haven't tried in training and stuff like that, because it can be tough. I think one of the things that maybe we could discuss is around obviously when you're going abroad, because that's something we've struggled with, isn't it? In terms of what I've been doing is finding the right foods when you're in Poland or Bilbao or stuff like that. And I've made the mistake a million times before where I've gone out for meals the night before and I'm like, this is not. remember eating, I think it was in Bilbao last year. I went out and had like a seafood paella.
Oh, nice.
And it was lovely, but my body didn't agree with seafood paella for the next day, unfortunately, because I don't ever eat stuff like that. So yeah, I think it can be, you might have to be a little bit like, if you're going to do a Hyrox abroad, maybe you can be a little bit boring before the race and maybe keep the adventurous side of things till after the race, potentially.
Yeah, people tend to be abroad and they're like, oh, well, me and my friends have booked a meal the night before the race. I'm like, okay, cool, that's fine. But you send me the menu. Let's have a look at it together. Because you don't want to be having a high fatty meal before. You don't want to have spices before. You don't want to have something that you've never really eat before the event. And if you can do, like, you've put so much time and effort to get to that date, just carry on your nutrition and enjoy the food afterwards. You know, plan the meal after the event.
I think it's really tempting, isn't it? You have that, everyone has that feeling when they arrive somewhere new, even if it is technically like for an event or something like that. You're like, right, let's go out and have a couple of drinks, or let's go out and let's go out for dinner that we wouldn't normally have. And like you said, I think if you've worked so hard to get to this point, spent a lot of money to go abroad and do the event, just hold fire just for another 24 hours before you go wild.
I had a lady run the London Marathon this weekend, and a big point of her is she's like, Amy, I just can't, like, I keep going to the toilet during the race, like, and it's a thing that happens with runners, right? And she's like, I didn't need the toilet once.
No.
Like, but she took her food with her to London. We'd done everything on point. And she was like, that is just such an achievement. She's in her 50s. She got her personal best.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, and she didn't go to the toilet during the race.
Doesn't forget the personal best. I managed to not go to the toilet.
Yeah, she was more happy about that. Yeah,
I think we need to give some of the advice to some of the people who do the men's Hyrox, if possible, around that then, because...
What happens, do you find that a lot with Hyrox?
I think everyone does. I think that's always a thing. Like I always see a post on like the Facebook groups and stuff. It's like, what's one thing that I should know about when it comes to Hyrox? It's like, you're going to need the toilet 10 times before you go.
Yeah.
And it's obviously a nervous thing and stuff like that. Yeah. But again, when it comes back to food and stuff, making sure you're eating if you're not eating the right foods and you have those nerves that sort of make you feel like that, it's not going to end well.
Exactly. And it's knowing what works for you. Like, this lady done a run in Vegas in February.
Cool.
Yeah, and she's done runs last year as well. And we've, over time, know what works for her. And she's just seen improvement after improvement after improvement. But that's from monitoring her response as an individual. Yeah. So you can give all the right advice in the world to someone because it's worked for you, it's worked for someone else. But for them, it might be just something they're doing that just needs to be paid attention to or tweaked a little bit, or leading up to the race, or 6 weeks prior to the race to get the digestion working with them. So there's so much to take into account.
This is why feedback's so important from clients, isn't it, right? Yeah. So that we actually... you as an individual know your body better than anyone else does. I'm going to know my clients, or you're going to know your client's body. So we need to ask the right questions, I guess, as coaches, to get the right feedback, to know if some tweaks need to be made or what have you.
Yeah, definitely.
We touched on it earlier on supplements, and yes, 100% agree, like, everyone's individual.
Yeah.
But are there any kind of, everyone should be taking this, or everyone should give this a go?
Okay, so pre-workout, supplements, all of this, there's so much information out there, or maybe so much products out there.
That's the thing, yeah.
And you'll get a bodybuilder having the same pre-workout as an endurance athlete. And like, so something like beta-alanine, we spoke about that recently. It has no effect for someone who's doing 8 to 10 reps in the gym. Like, if you're not training higher reps, like exercise that lasts more than 60 seconds, for example, or higher endurance, it's not going to have any effects. You know, like tingling.
So you bros out there, it's not going to work for you. You're doing like sets of 3 to 6.
Yeah, exactly. So, but for an endurance athlete, it's brilliant. So whereas, because basically with a bodybuilder, it's not enough time for the lactic acid to build up in the muscle.
Okay.
But for someone like yourself, it gives you that extra push on endurance. So,
okay. And so I think that's really good. So beta-alanine, if you know how to actually say that properly, let us know. So this is the stuff that gives you the tingles, right?
Yeah.
I think I took too much of it the other day. So that packet that you sent me, or that I got sent, didn't have a scoop in it.
Oh, didn't it?
So I kind of free poured it.
Like you do.
And and then I drove to my training session and I was like, "Oh yeah,
you can feel it.
I'm up for this."
Yeah.
And I went too far because I was like, "Oh, it's made me feel a bit sick now."
Oh, really?
But then I got back and realised it was like 3 to 5 grams, and I was like, "I've definitely just poured like 20 grams in or something like that," because I was free pouring.
Did you have caffeine with it as well?
Yeah, I had a Monster.
Yeah.
So that probably didn't go down too well. So that would be one that you definitely recommend.
Definitely.
And what kind of time frame should we be taking that before an event?
Within the hour of the event, absolutely. But
sort of thing you sip on the way to the venue or something like that potentially.
I would get used to taking it like pre-training.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people tend to just like sip on it every day, but you can do but I would recommend.
And better as a sole product rather than like a pre-workout with caffeine, or just depends on personal preference?
It depends on the product. I think you actually sent me one with just that in and caffeine, which is fine for a workout if you get on well with both of those products. I would recommend caffeine.
It's unlikely you're going to want to, if you are obviously, unless you're training though, want to take a pre-workout.
Yeah.
On the day you're resting, right?
Yeah.
We sit there buzzing.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. But people will take it like in supplement form or tablet form. Yeah. So it depends on the product and what else it's got in it. Rhodiola is brilliant for strength. Rhodiola rosea.
Okay.
Right, that's good for strength and endurance.
I don't think I've ever even heard of that.
Yeah, it's good. And what it does is it helps the effect of caffeine as well. So if you're someone who's quite sensitive to caffeine, if you take rhodiola, it can help. It can help that as well.
Right.
So they're the main ones that I would say. Okay, let's talk BCAAs.
Yeah.
A lot of people take them, but if you ask them why, they don't know.
Yeah.
So BCAA is basically branched chain amino acid. And there's 20 amino acids that make up a complete protein. 9 of them are essential. So 9 of them we need to take in. Our body doesn't produce them.
Yeah.
The amino acid, the BCAAs, are 3 branched chain structured chemicals that we take in through our the essential ones that we get, like leucine and all that. If you look at a BCAA like a key to starting the ignition on the car, but the other essential acids are the fuel. So the key won't work without the fuel. Yeah. So in terms of muscle strength, it's not the best at muscle building. So if people are taking it for that purpose, I personally don't take it. I don't take it. If you want it for a bit of recovery and stuff like that, then yeah, absolutely. But it's not something I ever really recommend to clients. Yeah. Not that I'm against it. I just don't see it having that much of a beneficial effect.
See a lot of you'll see someone drinking like a cloudy mixture as they're training. You're like, what are you drinking? Oh, BCAAs. Cool. I probably have no understanding of what they actually are and what the benefits of them are. But again, it's like supplements are such a funny thing, because I think you get so many people that, again, it comes back to that laziness, doesn't it? They have a shit diet, but then they'll spend £100 a month on supplements. So true. And they'll be like, oh well, yeah, but I take all this stuff. I was like, yeah, but you're eating pizza 3 times a week or something like that. Like, do you know what I mean? And there's nothing wrong with that. But it is one of those things, isn't it? I think that again, it's those quick fixes, or what they think to be quick fixes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's knowing why you're taking something, and also look at what's in the product. Don't just go, okay, that's a pre-workout or a supplement. I need to take omega-3, and you don't look at the back. Look at what's in them. Do
you think that's down to influences though? I think so many products people buy on the basis of who's promoting them and who, and possibly, there's very much an element of, well, if it's good enough for them, it's good enough for me. I'm not going to ask any questions.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to take it, because if they do the sport, they're the best in the sport. Yeah. So I should be taking that product as well, right?
Exactly. And creatine's constant with that. Like creatine monohydrate is brilliant, perfect, cheap to buy, but there's so much creatine out there. But then people buy it. Oh, that's better because it's more expensive. Yeah. It's not the case, though, is it? Normally the cheapest one's the best. So that's again a question when I was an in-person personal trainer, was what supplements I should be taking, and obviously creatine is the most researched supplement out there for the benefits that it has for some multitude of things. So yeah, that would certainly be one I would say. Definitely. And I wouldn't take that. A lot of people take it in just their pre-workout, but creatine is something that needs to build up to be effective. So you'd want to be taking that separately every day, not in your pre-workout as such. And I think one of the Hyrox guys actually came to me. He was taking about 10 grams a day consistently.
Right.
You don't need that much.
It's 3 to 5 grams normally,
yeah,
isn't it?
3
Something
to
around
5
that.
grams for like, typical. If you're a smaller person, maybe 3. But yeah, you don't need more than that.
So we've got beta-alanine, creatine, and whatever that was.
Rhodiola.
I'm going to have to go and do some research on that one. Those are our 3 ones that we think that would be really beneficial for Hyrox athletes. Yeah?
They're great. They are really good. But creatine I would definitely recommend. But take that daily.
So my next question is, when are we going to see you in the Hyrox arena?
I know, I need to book one.
All right.
Yeah.
Next season?
Yeah. I'm
maybe you could go back to
training.
Dubai or something like that, where you get you on out there.
I think so. I think a holiday. You'll have to advise me on what to book, and I'll book it.
You'll be fine.
And then I'll look forward to your training, killing me.
Nice.
But and also with them, I just want to touch on the intracarbs that we spoke about.
Yeah.
So you were not struggling, but you found that after a double session, you were like, by the time I get to my double session, I'm like, I feel like I can.
Yeah, a little bit like dizzy sometimes a little bit faint, and like, really struggling to hit that next level. Yeah, definitely.
And that will be your carbs, because your body will be trying to pull from them.
Yeah.
So that's when we started talking about like intracarbs and stuff like that, didn't we? So as an endurance athlete, once you get to a certain point within your training, your body will be pulling from those carbs more than anything else. So you'll need to be making sure you're getting sufficient leading up. But also if you're doing like your double sessions, then getting it in between as well. I think so. It's sometimes we have to go with convenience, don't we? Right.
Yeah. And you can't, if you are someone trying to train twice a day, and I'm lucky that my job is kind of, I can do it on the move. I can do it whenever. Like I can open my laptop whenever I want to. But some people don't have that benefit. They'll train in the morning. They'll do their 9 to 5. They'll then train after work. They then got and trying to fit everything else in. So sometimes something like an energy gel or something like that could be the best way for them to just get it in quickly. And we're not looking. Yeah. Sometimes it's not always going to be optimal, is it? But it can be what's going to be convenient at the time. Yeah.
And other things, obviously, electrolytes as well.
Yeah, that's the big buzzword in Hyrox is electrolytes.
It is.
Is there any ingredients that we should be looking for in particular when it comes to electrolytes?
Okay, so I will touch on that. Let me tell you about one guy came to me, a Hyrox athlete.
Yeah.
Lovely guy, really good performance, but he was just sorting out his nutrition to get it on point. So we started a plan. I gave him his plan. He got his nutrition on point. He got his water on point. And he was like, Amy, I can't keep my water in. I just keep going for a wee all the time. Yeah. And I keep getting headaches. And I was just like, and he was coming up with all these things. So I was just like, are you having your salt on your meals? He was like, no, I'm not having it. I thought it was unhealthy for me. And I was like, no, you need like a good water salt balance. Like sodium is such a critical nutrient that people they sort out their nutrition and their water. But the sodium's part of
and if
hydration.
You're eating pretty clean, right? If you're eating vegetables and like good sources of meat, it's not going to be a lot of salt content in those kind of meals. So you are going to need to add it to that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. And that's why he started realising, because obviously he'd gone from eating probably higher salt food to then clean food, and he was getting these effects from it.
Electrolytes were a big thing for me, because I know in my first season, the biggest thing I struggled with, and this would have been an element of fitness to it as well, but sort of towards the back end of the race, like when I got to kind of the 7th run and the lunges, my calves used to cramp up like terribly. And sort of preloading electrolytes, and I mean I take them every day now, but then kind of when it came around to races, kind of doubling up on that made a massive difference. And in the last like 18 months, I haven't ever had that issue come up towards the back end of a race. And I think that's probably down to mainly the salt content within most of the electrolytes and stuff. But it makes a big difference. Yeah,
and just electrolytes as a whole, like the magnesium, everything that your body needs for you to perform at the level. For Hyrox athletes, it's vital to get to that next level and to feel good during your training. It's absolutely
I
vital.
think it's one of that in particular is one of those, again, if I'm having my pre-race strategy calls with people and they're like, what should I be looking at this week? Obviously, hydration. Yeah. Again, we talk about these big blocks that people go for, but just making sure you're drinking enough water. My rule is always pee clear. Yeah. The week of a Hyrox race, always pee clear. And like just making sure that sort of Tuesday onwards, that should be a real like nutrition of obviously massively, but the last thing you want to be doing is going into something like this with any kind of dehydration or anything like that in your body, right?
And what you'll find as well is people tend to, and this might be why people might like need the toilet more during a race, is they'll up their water intake, so their body like pushing the water through, and then they won't drink as much because they're worried about going to the toilet, but their body's still used to pushing that through. So it's really the Hyrox race, you should drink and eat pretty much during your training the same, not every week, but you should get used to it. So you know where your body's at with stuff, so you can tweak a few things here and there, and it is about like paying attention. So yeah, it's really important. I know one of your clients asked about vegan food for Hyrox and getting enough protein in, which is more difficult. It absolutely is, because a lot of protein sources for vegans come with extra carbohydrates and fat, which is fine. You just need to be more particular about what you're having, and making sure you're getting enough protein. And then for BCAAs might be good for someone who's vegan.
Okay, yeah,
or even someone who's training fasted. Like if they you know, they can get that in. But yeah, for a vegan, that's fine to have just as an extra.
There's two types of vegans in the world, I think. There's no, this is another negative. There's the ones who just eat like, so my wife was vegan for a period of time, and she would just be like, freezer shit.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know, what the corn, potatoes and veg, and that was it. Or there's the ones that like, okay, I'm going to cook from scratch, right?
Yeah.
And there's a big difference between the two, I think.
So someone writes on my application from a vegan, and a vegan 1 or vegan 2.
Yeah, exactly. That's what you should be like. Are you want to eat shit, or you want to actually make stuff from scratch?
So true. That is actually true. I've got both clients actually. But yeah, it's just making sure, you just have to be a bit more like conscious about what you're eating, really, just to make sure you're getting enough.
And probably
protein.
As a vegan, supplementation is going to be beneficial, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You need to be getting obviously like your omega-3s in and stuff like that for general health, but also just like a soy protein can be quite good. That's
what I meant on that basis, sort of when it comes to protein.
I actually heard, and I haven't researched it, about a potato isolate protein's meant to be good for vegans, but I have to do a little bit more research.
We used to have a guy who came to our gym and he had beef protein, and he shouldn't have been having that. Let's just say that he was thrown out of the gym a few times just from generally smelling.
What, like a beef stock? Like
no, it was a beef whey isolate, but it smelled disgusting. It didn't smell good coming out of him, to be honest.
Really? That's another thing. Bone broth's fantastic. Like people buy these
like marrow, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, like it's really good. So people buy these like.
Got to be really committed.
Yeah, it tastes all right. Yeah. But yeah, that's a really good way to get everything in. So yeah. So
nice.
what have you noticed since going from, obviously when we started working together, you'd smashing Hyrox already, and you got good basic knowledge of nutrition. You really do. So like, what's been the change from then to like actually when you're on point with your nutrition?
Yeah, I think the best I felt this season since we started working together was probably in that Poland race, to be fair. It was quite an easy one for me because there wasn't any distractions when I was there. So I didn't have my family with me. I literally went by myself. There was a shop around the corner which sold kind of everything once I worked out how to understand Polish. Yeah. It worked out, it kind of sold everything that I needed. And that was probably one of the first times that I've been like, okay, the reason I am here is solely for this race.
Yeah.
So I'm going to eat well. I'm going to like fuel myself properly. And it did. I even remember thinking about halfway round that I actually had another gear to go to.
Wow.
And I was at a good. I didn't. It wasn't a PB for me in the race, but that comes down to a number of reasons due to Hyrox courses and stuff like that. But it was by far that halfway point that I could tell that I fueled myself 100% correctly for that race. And it made that in itself was a confidence booster. Like that you talk about, people talk about the wall in a marathon, right?
Yeah.
And you do kind of get that in a Hyrox race when you realize there's so much more ahead of you. So having that like mentality in your head, like, yeah, I'm fueled here, I don't need anything else is really beneficial. So, and look, I'm like a human, like everyone else, where I've had my ups and downs when it comes to this nutrition, barriers in the way, holidays, birthdays and stuff like that. So I know when I'm on point with the nutrition that how much of a difference it makes. And again, it's all the knock-on effects like we talked about earlier, like getting more sleep, because that means my training's better, right? Like, you know, all those kind of things. And I'm sleeping better because I'm eating better. All those kind of things make a massive, massive difference.
Yeah, it's good. I've noticed that with you when you message, you're like, I feel really good.
Yeah, and I'll be more positive, right? Yeah. And it would just be more positive. But you can say it like everyone else when you've probably gone out and had a few beers at the weekend or what have you, like, nah, it's not going too well at the moment. But it's finding the balance. It's finding what times in your life. So for me right now, this is a period, I've got 6 weeks. I've got 3 races in that 6 week time frame. So I need to really dial everything in, from nutrition to training to sleep. Everything needs to be as best as it physically can. Yeah. As best as it physically can. So it's just
in terms of sleep, obviously sleep's so important, isn't it?
Yeah.
For everything, for like recovery and stuff like that. What do you find with your clients? Like, do you find that has a big impact because of family life, kids, or just in general people struggling with sleep?
I think it's just one of those things that everyone's always looking at, like ways to get ahead, when I think you need to look at the most foundational stuff first. Yeah. And sleep for me is that thing. If you are not getting enough sleep, everything's going to go out the window. Decision making more than anything else. And that decision making is when it comes to what we're discussing here today, the types of food you eat. How many times when you're tired have you gone, okay, should we just order a pizza rather than should we cook a nice healthy meal? How many times have you gone, I'm knackered, I'm not going to train today because I'm tired, because I haven't had the right amount of sleep? So I think everything can almost go back to sleep. And as I said, that's normally around when things are not going well, but that and nutrition are always the first 2 things I will ask about. How are they at the moment? And normally one of those 2 things is not good. Hence why you're having those periods.
It affects you. I actually struggled with sleep myself in January this year, and honestly, I felt like a different person. Everything was so much harder. Yeah, and I'm pleased that I went through it because I can really relate to clients with it now. But honestly, like the way you feel when you sleep and you rest and you recover properly, you just can't touch it. There's no supplement or anything. Yeah,
and take. I think you can get into like spirals, can't you, with stuff like that? Like my sleep's okay at the moment, but I know how I could make it better, and that's not staring at my phone watching stupid videos on Facebook half an hour until I go to bed. I've even got a book. It's a book that I'm desperate to read as well, and it's like. It's a book about hybrid training and protocols and stuff like that. It's like really interesting stuff. And it's been sat there for 3 weeks, and every single night I get into bed and my wife says to me, we call it book club. We're going to start book club tonight. I'm like, too tired tonight. Too tired to read a book to fall asleep. Like that's bollocks. But it's because I'm in a habit of getting up really early, not like working my nuts off all day, like, and then getting at 9 o'clock, and you want to do what you find comforting, right? Yeah. And that for me at the moment is just sitting there, and I know for a fact that my sleep would be improved if I stopped doing that, or eating a little bit later. That can, like last night I was really busy, so I didn't end up having dinner till like 9 o'clock at night, and that then has a knock-on effect because it's much harder to fall asleep and all. Do you
find that?
I find it massively.
I'm the opposite with that.
Really? Yeah. Is that if you had a big meal though, or like just a normal?
I don't know. It's a comfort thing, I think.
Really?
I get scared of being hungry all the time.
No, see, I find I've been better, and I know we mentioned this since we started moving, like eating a little bit earlier. Yeah. I find my body's so when I'm looking for digested it all. Yeah. And that's made a massive difference. That I find it much easier to sleep because of that. Whereas sometimes, and again, when you've got kids, it's different, but sometimes you have to shove something in at 8 o'clock and that's all you can get. And they're like, right, I could do with going to bed now. Do you know what I mean? So it can be tough. It can be tough. But again, it comes down to, you don't necessarily need to be optimal, but it's just finding out what works best for you with your circumstances and your lifestyle and everything like that, right?
It's been, I think, strict with your routine. Like
Routine's massive, isn't it? We always talk about it with children that they need to have routine and stuff like that. But genuinely, as adults, we'd be so much better, right? If we did the same thing.
We all need a bedtime routine.
100%.
And once you get into it, you miss it. Like you actually feel like I read
this. I love a book called Atomic Habits. I don't know if you've read it. So this is all about, like, if you want to create a habit, like just starting with the smallest things. So if you want to become a runner and you're not a runner, that's not going to happen overnight. You're not going to wake up and run 10K. And it talks about just getting up in the morning for the first 3 days and putting on your running shoes. That's it. And then going about your normal life. And then the next 3 days is you then walk to the end of the road and come back in your running shoes, and you just progress it. And it's the same thing. The other analogy they use was like what does the dentist always say? Always says you need to floss.
Yeah.
So you're not going to go from someone who's never flossed to flossing all of your teeth every single night. So it's like, just start by flossing one tooth and then two teeth. And it's really, there's loads of different analogies in it when it comes to creating habits, no matter what you want that habit to be, whether it be sleep, training, whatever it may be, or a lifestyle thing. But it's a book that I always tell people if they're struggling, go and read that, because it's going to give you some really good. It's called Atomic Habits. I think it's by an author called James Clear. And yeah, it's just got some really good, like, simple analogies of how to create habits in your life, and fundamentally good habits are going to lead to good things in your life, I think.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, no, it's so true. And I don't know about you, but I think it's vital for change. I think, like, I don't know, when I get a client and they join me and then the next day they're like sending me pictures of every single meal they've got, every single gym session they've got. They're so enthusiastic, which is great to see. But I'm like, it's almost too much.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you can't change overnight like that.
No, yeah.
But if a client is like, well, Amy, this week I followed the food plan, but I didn't really get any exercise in. I need to get my water and take up my steps. I'm like, well, next week we'll do this. And then slowly build up those habits. It's so much more sustainable.
It's meeting the client where they're at, isn't it? And again, this is something I've seen currently now and previously as a personal trainer, that it's like the New Year's resolutions, isn't it? Like someone who's like, okay, I'm overweight. What can I do about that? Okay, I'm now going to eat salad for every meal. I'm going to try and run 10 kilometers a day. And then lo and behold, after a week, they burnt out. That wasn't sustainable in any way. And whenever anyone who came to me who was like a fat loss client and they were looking to get in better shape, we'd sit down and we'd have like a one-to-one like strategy chat with them, and they'd be like, okay, what do I need to look at here? And let's see I'd always want to see where the person was at. And if they were at the starting point of 0, I was like, okay, your goal right now is I don't even want you to look at nutrition or steps or anything like that. Let's just look at getting you into the gym 3 times a week. And if you can come into, and I don't care what your performance is like when you're in here, but just getting to the gym 3 times a week. And when that becomes a second nature to you, then we might be like, okay, you're currently doing 2,000 steps on top of that. Let's increase that to 5,000. Something realistic, like doing another 20 minutes of walking per day. Cool. Now that's a routine. That's in your life. Okay. Now let's maybe have a little look at your nutrition side of things. And that still probably at this stage for someone wouldn't be tracking your calories and everything like that. It might just be like, okay, can we see if we can look at your protein? Just like focus on that. And obviously this is, I'm sure, all the kind of stuff that you would do with someone as well, but it's just the building blocks, right? Those 100%. in a slow way for someone that's going to be manageable.
And I think you would give someone that advice. Like, I'm sure that person would give someone else that advice, but because they want that goal so badly and they're at a point they want change, they're like, no, I got to do everything because I want this change. And they dive right into it. It's not sustainable. And then they fall off, and then it's just repeating.
And how often have you done it with clients where they'll come to you and they've been tracking their food or something, and then you might set their calories for them and they're a lot higher than what they've been doing, and they're like, well, that won't work for me because
it's completely
because it's more than what I was previously on, and it didn't work what I was previously on, but obviously they weren't adhering to what they were previously on, and that was the biggest issue, right?
Absolutely. And it's about them being honest with themselves about where they're at, isn't it? But I think when it comes to it's I don't know when this was done, but apparently only if you take 100% of diets, 100% of people who diet, only 70% of those people will hold them results in the year. Right. As 70% of those people will regain that weight and put it back on in 1 year. In 3 years, 95% of people will put that weight back on and more. So only 5% of diets actually work for people, and people don't know them stats. And it's because they just think it's a matter of going, well, I'll eat healthy food and go to the gym. It's not about that.
You think it's how people frame it? I've never really liked the word diet. Like I prefer like a lifestyle in theory. Do you know what I mean? Like I think diet now has so many connotations of, it probably doesn't normally mean like a female who's trying to lose weight and has tried every diet under the sun. Do you know what I mean? I think it just kind of has that, where I think is if you're focusing more on a lifestyle change as a whole, I think is so much more important when it comes to stuff like that.
Totally. And I think also everyone's on a diet. It's just what their diet
what your diet is.
So I think when you look at it like that, and you're like, well, I'm on a diet right now, but it's just not the best one for me.
Yeah, true.
So I think it's and also the more times you diet, so the more cycles you do of trying to diet, the more your body's fighting against you. So you'll find that people diet and then they'll find it hard over a period of time to lose weight. So they'll be like, well, 4 years ago that worked for me. But in that cycle of trying, because your body doesn't know you want to lose weight. So it sees it as a starvation. So every time you go back into it, it's already re-preparing you to restore that body fat again. So it's a constant cycle of that. Your body then fights harder against you. So once you've committed to that change, you need to remain committed to that change and see it through.
Nice.
Because it'll just become harder and harder, and psychologically harder and harder each time, because you've failed that time, you fail again, you fail again. Every time you start something new, you're going to feel, I'm going to fail this. So yeah, I think your body and psychologically,
mental side of it as much as the physical, right?
Yeah. You've got to, there's so much more to it than these things online that the people make out.
I think that's what it all comes full circle with the start of this conversation, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is the personalization to each individual is so important, whether it be Hyrox coaching, whether it be nutrition coaching. It's understanding that, and this is why hiring a coach, I think, is such an important thing and such a powerful tool, because you can go and follow whatever you want online, but it's never going to be based around you.
Yeah, that's true.
And everything that you have going on in your life and all those kind of things. So
I was going to ask you, when you get a client come to you, do you usually get someone that's previously done an event or brand new to Hyrox?
I think it's a bit of a mix. At the moment, most of the people that are inquiring are people that are brand new to it. So
really?
It's finding about what their training history is like and what it, because this is, again, the problem we can have is that people will just see stuff online and think, okay, I now need to go from someone who's never done training like this to training 6 times a week. And if I'm not training 6 times a week, I'm not going to be ready for my event. And I actually had a conversation with someone this morning who said exactly that. And she was like, I've literally just spent a month going hell for leather, following everything I've seen online, and I'm completely fed up with it. And this is why I'm reaching out to you as an individual. I find that people that potentially have done a event before maybe value coaching a little bit more. They understand what that they previously doing might not necessarily have not been the best, but it wasn't optimal for what they could be doing. And that's fundamentally why you hire someone, is to take that guesswork. I know I have a coach myself when it comes to it, and that's not because I don't know how to train for it. For me, it's about having that accountability. That for me is the biggest word. It's just having someone checking in on me, knowing that I'm doing it. So when I am having those times where I'm like, I'm struggling with motivation a little bit, it kind of forces me to do it.
And also, do you find that stops you being so hard on yourself?
To an extent. I think even something as little as actually, do you know what, investing? Yeah. Like I'm not tight in any way, but if I'm paying for something, I'm going to do it. Whether that be £40 a month, whether that be £200 a month, it doesn't matter what that is. I feel like I always found it crazy when we had people at the gym who were paying a membership and we didn't see them for like 2 or 3 months. I just cancel my membership. Do you know what I mean? But if I'm investing in something, that means I'm a lot more engaged with it, because I don't want to waste that money. Right? Especially when you get to the point of your life where you do have a family to support and all those kind of things, that you probably had to have a conversation. How many times have you had it? Probably way, but let me just chat with my partner to see if that's okay. So if you are investing some of the family's money into you as a person, which I think everyone should do at the end of the day, everyone is so quick to, or you like go on a night out or go out spending money on food and stuff like that. And you see this all the time on social media, but it is so true that people will spend £200 on a night out, no bother. But if you said it's £200 a month for coaching, be like, how much? Yeah. But what that would give them in comparison to take away is ridiculous.
It's their whole life. Like, even just like doing a Hyrox event, even if someone does one Hyrox event and they train really hard for it, what an achievement to know you've actually invested in yourself. And I think as well with any goal like that, whether it be a nutrition goal or a Hyrox goal or any goal like that where you invest into yourself, it's not just that goal. Every single day when you make a good choice for yourself, it's like reconfirmation that, you know, you're doing the best for yourself. Yeah. And then when that goal pays off, you know, by every time I've invested into myself daily and focused on myself daily, I've got here. Yeah. So now if I do that again in my work, or I do that again with my money or in my relationship, it's going to improve and get better. And it's so much bigger than just a time or a physique.
I think every person should have a coach in some aspect of their life, whatever that may be, even if that's someone who's like seen as a bit of a mentor to you in some way, even if you don't pay for that. Yeah. Like just someone that you bounce ideas off in life, just having that one person that you're like, okay, this is the person that I'm going to go and speak to about that. I think it's so important for people to have that, and that whether that be a coach for an event, whether that just be about life decisions, whatever that may be. I think having that one person where you're going to bounce ideas off, and I think that's so powerful to understand as a coach, that you are that person, that someone is putting their life in your hands. In theory, they're trusting that what you're saying for them is correct, and what you're doing for them is correct. And I think that's so powerful. And like, I love like receiving messages after. It's not just after people hit personal bests. It's even like, do you know what? I feel incredible at the moment.
Yeah.
Like,
I just went to the gym today.
Yeah. I feel amazing. And like, you don't necessarily have to be doing loads, but just being in that person's corner, being that person's confidant is such a big thing, I think.
It is, yeah. It's a huge responsibility, but it's a privilege to be a part of someone else's journey, isn't it, as Definitely. A coach? But yeah, I think every area of your life, you need to be accountable. Having, again, me in the research, but there's research that shows like accountability and seeing your own progress are the biggest motivators to continue something and actually be successful at it. So every time, obviously, you put your work into your training and you see it paying off, you're going to be more motivated to put it in. And the accountability side. So whereas you can talk yourself out of something if you don't feel like it, knowing you've got to tell someone else. Yeah. And it's knowing that you've got to basically either not input the result or tell someone that you didn't do something. Can sometimes just be that kick up the arse that you need to be like, okay, I'm going to do this. Massively. And sometimes you just need that, right? Yeah, massively. So I think it's people start with one goal. They might start with you because they want to get better at running or an overall at Hyrox or their own personal reason. Or they might start with me because they're feeling a bit down in their physique or, again, like personal bests or whatever. But then they realise there's just so much more gained from it, isn't there? There's just so much more gained. And people end up staying with me for like 3-4 years and their physique isn't changing drastically. No. They know a lot because they've learnt a lot along the way. But it's the accountability that they stay for.
The support, right?
The support. Someone thinking about them. Because especially as a dad, how many times do someone think about you as top priority? Like, no, it just doesn't happen as adults.
It's true. And I think I train a lot of other... that's probably an area where I would specialize in terms of the clients I like taking on board are other dads and stuff like that, because I can't totally understand what they're going through. And sometimes you are bottom of the list, unfortunately, and you're working your nuts off and you're doing this and that. But unfortunately, what you want in life has to be like the amount of dads that I know who have got garage gyms and training at 9 p.m. because that's the only time of the day they can do it. Do you know what I mean? So it's understand. I think a good coach has that element of understanding, doesn't they? And I think that's really beneficial.
Yeah, and I don't know if you find this, but parents in general, mums and dads, they feel guilty for the time they invest in themselves. Yeah. But I find that it's actually so beneficial to your children to see, one, you invest in your health and your fitness and your overall care, but two, prioritising yourself. You don't want your kids to grow up and put everything and everyone else above them. So you've got to be a role model to them to do the same. So it isn't selfish.
It's finding out what your why is, isn't it? I think that's so important. And for me, that has always, since I started doing Hyrox, my why has always been to like make my daughter proud. I've always had this like thought of her on her first, like when they do like the like show and tell kind of thing at school, where she's like, oh, this is what my dad does, and like obviously that being really, really cool.
I saw you about the dad's race the other day.
Yeah, exactly. That's a bit of me, the dad's race.
That's an achievement in itself.
I think and little things like I've seen so many people that like, how often do you hear that I'm 50 or I'm 60, it's too late for me, that kind of thing. That so isn't true. It's the environment that you build around you. So I want to be the granddad who is still running around after my kids and stuff like that. I still want to be 50, 60, 70 years old and like overcoming like boundaries and barriers that people didn't think that could be done by someone of that age. I think so many people use age as a get out, definitely. And I think that's always been my why. I always want to be fit and healthy, and sort of doing Hyrox has given me that. It's given me another way of expressing that, and an element of like competition as well, because that's what I love.
I love that. No, it's so true, and I think as we get older, it's so much more important to eat right and train. Like, it's so vital. Our lean muscle tissue is my most important tissue, like, that we can have for our general overall health. Like, and people don't realize it. Like, they're just it's so underrated. A couple of guys that came through you, they're late 40s, early 50s. They're in incredible shape.
Yeah.
And then I coach other people that have come to me and they get incredible shape, and you look at their transformation pictures and they look like they've dropped like 20 years of their life.
Yeah, no, massively.
Their blood markers are coming back better. It's just so important. But like you said, people invest in meals out and takeaways and even holidays are vital in life as well. But you need to. Your everyday life will be better if you're feeling good.
Yeah, I agree.
And you're healthy.
Yeah.
So what's the goal now with your own personal goals?
So the goal for me in terms of Hyrox, I got 3 more races this year. Mm-hmm. I've got London in a couple of weeks. They're all going to be doubles events. I'm going out to, that's more of like a practice. I'm going out to Doha the week after, which is going to be really cool to do an event out there. And this is part of it for me. Like I've always been into traveling and all that kind of stuff. So to be able to, I'm lucky that I have sponsors that like help me out going to these events and stuff like that. So being able to travel and do something I enjoy is amazing. Yeah. And then the end of this season is the World Championships, which is in Nice. So we're hoping, me and my partner are hoping to do pretty well there.
Yeah.
Hopefully if we can get on the podium, that'd be really cool. If we can win it, even better. But that's obviously where the best are going to come. Yeah. So haven't really looked too much into next season as of yet. I've got a couple of events booked. We obviously are expecting our second child in July, which is pretty exciting. But that might make a few changes, like we've discussed, to my lifestyle, how much time I have available to train, how many times I can disappear out of the country to do events might be a little bit less, but that's okay. It just means it's about adapting rather than being like, okay, well, now I've got a second child, I can't do anything. I'm lucky I've got a very supportive wife who understands how much this means to me and everything like that. So it just might mean that I'm doing less events, but that might be a good thing. It might mean that I can do large training blocks. Obviously, sometimes when you're constantly racing, you're never making improvements because you're deloading and tapering all the time. Yeah. So by having sort of bigger blocks of training, hopefully we can make some bigger improvements. Yeah. But yeah, no, I'm excited for this sport is massive now. Like, events are selling out in like 2 or 3 minutes in the UK in particular. It's crazy. I think
do you ever get a pinch me moment where you're like I just had an idea, went to Hyrox one day and now I'm here?
Yeah, I said this to we went on holiday a couple of weeks ago and we went out for dinner and I said to my wife, I was like, don't you think it's weird that I just signed up for that race, won it, and now kind of this is our life? Like I coach people full time for it. I do the events. I'm sponsored. I even remember we massively made this joke like 18 months ago, but how cool would it be if I was sponsored by Puma? And then,
no way.
Yeah, genuinely, because obviously they were everywhere.
Yeah.
And then obviously this season I was very lucky to be sponsored by Puma.
That's amazing.
So yeah, no, I was even talking about it with the guy who sets up this podcast, Stuart, and he was talking about how lucky he was when it comes to some of the people he's got to work with and stuff like that. And I said, yeah, but you make your own luck in life. And yes, there's got an element of things have got to go right for you, but normally the things go right for you because of the hard work you put in. And like we discussed earlier, like no one sees all that. Some people will see the deals that you might get and the sponsorships and being able to travel to go to events, but the work that you put in to get into that position is probably above and beyond what most people are willing to do.
Absolutely, yeah.
I'm not sat there in the evening at 6 o'clock watching Netflix for 4 hours. I'm either on my computer working or I'm training again.
Yeah.
Because that's like a time when my daughter's in bed that I can do it. And people don't see that kind of stuff, do they?
No, they don't.
So yeah, no, I was up at 5 o'clock this morning so I could catch it, so I could train, so I could get as much work done as possible before we came and did this.
Yeah.
But people will just see this
and
think, oh, what an easy job he's got.
Yeah,
it's like, no, I had to get up at 5 a.m. so I could do this.
But it's a privilege at the same time. It's feeling grateful for the fact that you can.
Yeah.
Imagine you didn't do Hyrox. Like even that, it's that step of you would have never truly known your capabilities if you didn't make that decision. Yeah,
and it's about taking a chance in life, isn't it? Right? I think that's a big thing for me when as we've talked about, wasn't an in-person personal trainer. I worked for a gym and I took a big leap sort of 6-7 months ago to go and do Hyrox coaching full time as my sole job, and it turned out to be a really good decision. But I'm a firm believer of if you take chances, good things will happen. So it's about having those leaps of faith really and seeing what happens.
I think you said about like luck earlier. I think as well it's if an opportunity comes your way, it's being ready for it.
Yeah.
You were ready for Hyrox. You gave yourself a month and you smashed it. because of the work that you put in before that. And I think it's just setting yourself up in life to be ready for an opportunity.
Yeah.
Because things come along all the time. I think there's that red car theory. Have you heard of it?
No, go on.
Where they say like you can drive past red cars constantly all the time as though they're opportunities all the time. You can walk past them. But if you're looking...
Never see them.
Well, if you look for red cars, you'll see them everywhere. You'll notice them. Yeah. And it's the same as an opportunity. So if you start looking for opportunities, you start noticing them. But if you're not looking, they'll pass you by all the time and you won't even register it. So it's about being ready and noticing what an opportunity is when it comes, really, isn't it? So
definitely.
What would be your advice for anyone who is looking to start a Hyrox or start not even just a Hyrox, just the next step in life?
I think it's like we talked about it again earlier, didn't we? It's understand why is that important to you. I think is always really important to understand. Like, why do you want that to be? Whether it be competing in a Hyrox race or whatever you're going to do in life, and I think you then have to work backwards from there.
Yeah.
So this is the goal that I want to achieve, and this is why it's important. So let me try and put the two together.
Yeah.
And when it comes to certainly Hyrox specifically, if it was like looking at advice for someone who is a first timer, you don't necessarily need to hire a coach in any way, but it's starting slow and building up. Understand where you are at to begin with, and don't be kind of pulled in by everything that you see online that you need to be doing. Just start steady and build things up slowly, I would say.
With your coaching, what have you noticed in the industry that you would feel like, actually, I wouldn't like that, and this is what I want to give to my clients instead? Or like, what makes you...
So for me, that my biggest thing that stands me out from everyone else out there is the communication that I offer. Checking in with clients weekly, feedbacking on their workouts. I think too many people there's a difference between programming and coaching, right? That's two major different things.
Yeah.
Anyone can create a program and send it out, but it's connecting with that person on a one-to-one basis, knowing what's going on in their personal life, and knowing when you need to push them, when you don't need to push them. So for me, communication is absolutely key. And especially when you're an online coach, I think when you're seeing someone face to face 3 times a week, you can probably get away with those being the only points of contact that you have with that person. You don't have that privilege as an online coach. So you need to understand that maybe when trends look like a little bit differently, so if someone's missed a couple of workouts on the trot, it might just need to be a simple message. But I think as an online coach, I think your communication needs to be better than anything else. The reason why you're attracted to a coach might be because of their message and how they portray themselves, but I think why people would choose to stay with me is because the communication, the care. I think actually giving a shit as well makes a difference rather than
genuinely having a person in front of you that you care about.
Yeah. Rather than seeing that as that's money going into my account each month, it's seeing it as like, actually, no, I really want this person to succeed. We talked about Kai, I'm sure she won't mind me mentioning that, like how I was genuinely so buzzing for her when she hit that PB, because I know how much it's meant to her. I've coached her for over a year now, and she is the most consistent person that I work with, and she's great with her feedback. She never misses sessions, and she's had so many ups and downs along the way, but to be able to achieve that and help her get to that personal best finally. And I know that big grin on her face that she had was that to me is what it's all about.
Everything.
That's what it's all about. When it comes to being a coach.
It's getting that message through and someone's so happy that their hard work's paid off.
And it's something you've helped them do. It's such a rewarding feeling.
It is. And I think when it comes to it, it's got to be a job that you would do without the money. Like something that you would just do and want to help people achieve. And I think people can get swayed in the wrong direction, or they just take on too much. And there's a person at the end of that.
I think something that people have asked me a lot recently is like, oh, where do you see this going in like 3 to 5 years? And my answer has been like, do you know what? If everything was how it is right now, I'd be pretty happy with that, to be honest. And I think that means that you enjoy what you do, right?
100%. I got asked that in the last podcast. So again, they were like, well, what's your next business move? And I'm like, I don't really look at it like a business. I just want to help more people. Like I love the people. I want to keep the positive like vibe that's within the team, and I just want to help more people, like literally. And I think when you come from that point of view, it's a genuine
and it's getting your message out there, isn't there? Because so many things can get lost in translation, or can get lost online, but it's getting your name out there to as many people as possible, not because you're desperate to make as much money as possible, but because you want to help as many people as possible, right?
Genuinely. Yeah. When you look at someone and you know you can help them, it's hard.
How many times have you had those conversations where you're like, this person needs to be signing up with me because I know, like I had this like last week, I was like, I genuinely, and I'd message him afterwards, like, I genuinely feel I'm the perfect fit for you. So like, go and speak to other coaches. That's cool. Find out what else is out there. But I promise you, there's not going to be anyone better for what you're looking for.
Sometimes people have to go with someone else for whatever reason that may be, to realize that actually to find a genuine coach online. And when you think of a coach, a coach in any aspect of your life, like you said earlier, is there to support you, there to guide you, there to care about you, and there to help you reach your next level, whatever that next level might be. So the person that fits you the best is the person that you get on well with, who genuinely cares about you.
Having that click, isn't it?
Having a click.
It's almost like it's like a first date.
Yeah.
it's like having that spark, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think that's why I think it's always really key to get someone on the phone that you're like sort of speaking to for the first time, because you're like, okay, we can see that we gel quite well here together. So I think that's because you've got to have that relationship, and I that's part of me as a person is I'm very. You're
very humble.
Yeah, but I'll also have a bit of banter with my clients and stuff like that along the way. I'm not someone that will be completely strict. Like I've got a specific client who likes to call me, see you next Tuesday every single time, but it's a bit of banter between us. I call him an old git. and that's the kind of two-way relationship we have. And I think you kind of need that rather than it's just so robotic.
100%,
almost, right? Like otherwise AI can go and take over and do everything.
Yeah. And when I think sometimes they don't expect a certain reply from you.
You're like, whoa.
But it makes you closer because you can laugh about stuff and banter about stuff. But yeah, I think like it's knowing you can help someone, wanting to genuinely help someone, that makes all the difference. And it is really sad when you see someone suffering and you're like, you know, you can help them. But that can come in the coaching journey as well. So it's not even getting someone to join up. I don't know if you find that, but like within coaching, it's knowing if they just take your advice 100%, where they will end up. But it's the mental barrier maybe, or they're just getting in their own way. I find that so frustrating because I'm like, you know, we everything you want, I know I can help you with. You just got 100% pass the trust over to me.
Got to commit.
Yeah.
That was good.
For time.
Yeah. I think that's good.
Is there anything else you want to cover?
No, I think we've gone through it all, to be fair.
Yeah, I think so.
That's good.
Quite well.
Yeah, I think so. 97 minutes, I'd say it's pretty good. I don't think I've ever spoken for that long before.
I speak like that all the time. But my voice notes are 97 minutes.
Yeah, true, they are.